Hey y'all, it's Mrs. D Green here, coming in at you with another log, a little life lesson log. Just wanted to share, another experience I had that was humbling and required me to pivot and challenge myself. But speaking of sharing, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Just, help a sister out. I'm trying to get myself out there, trying to become a content creator. It's going to take some time, but it's also going to take some algorithm circulation. In order for that to happen, I need to have engagement. So if you don't mind and you support your girl, please do that. Okay. All right. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was, like I said, pivoting and taking a step back to humble yourself. And again, this is why that relationship with God and that inner voice in you, to a higher power meaning higher level of living, just challenge, being present and being in your Ephesians, living the best life of quality that God wants you to have. So, I say this because what's happened recently is I'm going through a lot of meet and greets, and I'm talking to headhunters and bringing people onto the team, and just giving them my backstory as to how I got into the role that I'm in right now and what my origin story was. So before I got into the career I am in right now, which is compensation, it's a facet of Total Rewards that deals primarily with salary. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but because the company is so large, they've decided to split their Total Rewards team because comp crosses over, at least in our organization, to so many different lines of business. So we deal with payroll, we deal with compliance, we deal with human resources. We call them people solutions in our company, but we touch so much. So it's a very small, niched role. You got to have a specific skill set in order to be a compensation professional. But before I got here, that was not my trajectory at all. In fact, I actually wanted to go into psychology. And the reason I did that is my upbringing. As I've mentioned before in the other videos, I'm very transparent about my life. It wasn't stable. I'm a traditional product of a single parent. Dad wasn't around. Mom, had to face a lot of adversity. Then that poured down into the children. And just in general within our community, if I'm also being frank, there's a lot of just dysfunction that has caused us to kind of be set back due to the earlier events, of the United States being established, i.e. slavery. So that has transitioned into us as a community, and it's still affecting us to this day. There's generational trauma that some are lost, some are not. So we're not here for a history lesson though, just, specific life lesson to kind of give you guys some gems. So before I got into this career, I actually worked in human services. So I did different roles within human services. I worked as a job coach with adults that have developmental disabilities, did that for a couple of years. And then I went into reentry, and that was dealing with the population that was returning home after being incarcerated. I specifically worked with that population on the employment aspect, because there's different, areas that they need services in, and that's where my area of service was. Helped write resumes, helped prepare them for interviews, just helped them get on a routine and kind of integrate back into the workforce. But while I was working that job, I was also in my first year of grad school. And how I got into the program I ended up getting my master's in, which is human resources management, was COVID happened, right? So I was one of those people that COVID actually did me well. I mean, with the exception of the weight gain, because I'm an introvert, because I was so busy, because I was out there working so much and I had a young child, I love the fact that I could stay home and, relax with my baby. And then they had transitioned our classes from being on campus to being online. So then it was the introduction to me being a full online student, which changed the whole course of how I pursued education. So, but when COVID happened, I was gonna, instead of going into marriage family therapy, which was my intention to become a therapist, I realized working in reentry that I was way too much of an empath, because when you're working with a population that has faced so many challenges, I mean, some of the stories you hear, their life is just very adverse, and it's not something you can help them with restricted within 9 to 5. You find yourself talking to people over the weekend, in the evenings, and so I already knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that constantly, plus the bureaucracy and red tape. I'm like, man, at the end of the day, it's just a business. So that didn't sit well with me. I decided, okay, I'm going to take the course. I'm going to corporate America. That was one decision. Second was, I didn't know what the trajectory of IO psychology was, because that was a newer science to psychology. So then I said, well, what is something that is equivalent, that is established, right? That's established within the industries, that has a long standing, that has promise going forward? Human resources. So then that's how I pivoted to pursuing my master's in human resource management. Then, so while I was working at that job in reentry, something happened that made me kind of like take a step back and say, fuck this. I'm not dealing with this. And then so Thursday, Friday, that seed was planted into me. Saturday, Sunday, when I tell you I was putting in applications over the weekend, I think I must have put in like 100 plus applications, signed up for different websites that promoted remote work. And then by the Thursday of that following week, after that weekend, I got a call from the hiring manager of this company. Got a call, had my second round of interviews with the other hiring manager, and then finally with the VP of Total Rewards, who I ended up being hired by. Now, when I got hired, now mind you, I had already been a paraprofessional working, so I had a certain, ego that had developed within me of professionalism and how I saw myself in a professional sector. And I was 37. I had just turned 37. So I had to humble myself, and the role I applied for was the role of an intern, right? So it was a starting role. So, of course, I felt like even though I was going forward, I could have looked at that as taking a step back. Again, that's perspective for you. And so, took that role, and let me just give you a timeline. So July of 2021, that's when I started with this company. October of 2021, I was promoted. So that gives me, a $16,000 increase to my base. Then by July of 2022, a year after I had been hired as an intern, then I got promoted into analyst. And this was what made me love remote work too, because with remote work, I saw that companies care more about results. They're not, there's politics involved, but they don't really care about, your personality and all of that, because I always used to say, because I'm honest with myself, I'm kind of socially awkward. I don't kiss ass, and I'm not with the whole corporate politics. I don't do well, in a traditional brick and mortar setting when you're having to deal with different personalities live and direct, because people are funny. So I did fall in love with that work from home model, because that's all it came down to, was what are the results? What can you produce? And I was obviously making an impression on the company because of what I was producing. Then 2023, I had a major setback, lost my husband, so I wasn't performing as well, and, was kind of playing catch up. But then finally in July of 2024, then I got promoted into the role I'm in right now, and I'm on the trajectory to become the manager for compensation of North America by top of fiscal year 2026, which starts in December of this year. So I say this just to kind of drive home that point of what I said earlier. Sometimes, don't be so prideful in not wanting to take a step back, right? Take a step back and even step down in some aspects, because that could be God, just preparing you for something better. I'm one of those people, like, I'm not too proud of anything. The only thing I have pride in is my self-respect. And there are parameters that I look for, and if I'm being disrespected, where I'll say I'll check out. But again, I'm not too proud to go after what I want. Right? I'm not too proud to, come down a little bit off of the whatever high horse I have established within me, so that I could, go up. It's not a, what do they say? It's not a race, it's a marathon. So in order for me to be on top of my marathon, there are some directions that I may have to change, that, you know, God will put the message in me to do so. So it's important to be willing to pivot. Don't have a fixed mindset, right? Do not have a fixed mindset, because if you do, you're boxing yourself in. When you box your identity in by way of a fixed mindset, you're boxing in your potential, right? And potential is limitless. So I just wanted to share that with you. You know, hopefully this touched someone that's maybe going through a thought, you know, of transitioning into something different. Maybe they don't want to, you know, step down and go into something. Maybe they think it's less than for them. But believe me, again, if you have those conversations with God and you're, you know, listening to that voice, God will guide you. God will guide you. And one way I weigh if it's God versus something bad is, what's the worst that can happen, right? Am I hurting anyone by doing this? Is this setting me back? Am I being a better member of society? Am I self-sabotaging myself? That's how you know your true north is of God. God is guiding you into a higher purpose, because a lot of the times we get stuck on our decision making because we're scared. We don't know. I'm one of them. I can be anxious. So hopefully that helps. You know, this story helps you. I just, like I said, I want to be a beacon of life and light and spread my story and talk to you all and just, you know, gain that community. So in order for me to gain that community, again, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and, you know, drop some topics in the comments too that you want to talk about. You know, I'm all open. But anywho, you guys have a blessed day. It is Thursday, or a blessed evening, whatever time of the day you are watching this from. Again, this is your girl, Mrs. D Green, and I hope to see you again soon. Peace and blessings, my people. Bye.